What Brock Bowers did at Georgia will never, ever happen again in the history of college football. Now, I'm not talking about the 2 Buckets Awards, and I'm not talking about all the crazy numbers he put up. I'm talking about the fact that Brock Bowers, Amarius Mims, Kamari Lassiter, and Javon Bullard all went through their Georgia career losing to just one program. 2 different Alabama teams, but one program. That's something that we will never see again. All 3 of those guys went 3 and out, 3 years at Georgia, and won 2 national championships, and they only lost to one program the entire time. In fact, that group also beat Georgia for a national championship. So they beat every program that they played against throughout their Georgia career, right? So I don't know if any college football player ever in the future will beat the same program 3 years in a row, which is, crazy to say now with the transfer portal, but 3 years in a row beating every single team or program that they faced. I just don't see how it's going to happen again. And I got onto this topic because Brock Bowers, again, the greatest college football tight end of all time, he was on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, Will Compton and Taylor Lewan, and they were talking about his Georgia career and, talking about all the games that he won. And he told them, he said, yeah, I only lost to one team my entire career. And they're like, what are you talking about? That can't be right. And it is, right? It was in 2 championship games too. They lost to Alabama in the 21 SEC title game, and again in the 23 title game. That was it, right? They went undefeated in the year before. And if the committee knew what they were doing, Georgia should have been in the playoff in 2023 and could have won a 3rd consecutive national championship. They were left out, so that obviously didn't happen. But to go through your entire career, and all 4 of those guys deserve a lot of credit. But it is kind of mind-blowing when you sit back and think about it, because Georgia fans knew this. Everyone watching this video, I think, knew that, yeah, Brock Bowers only lost to Alabama. Kamari Lassiter, Javon Bullard, Amarius Mims. For those 3 years, 21, 22, and 23, Georgia lost to one program 2 different times, but just one program in 3 years. That is crazy. And the guys on the podcast, they just start laughing and realizing how good Georgia was. Because I think it's clear that outsiders, the national media, they look back on that year or those years, plural, and I don't think they remember how exactly good Georgia was. That 21 team was unbelievable, right? And with the expanded playoff, it is tougher to win a national championship now because to go undefeated, you have to be 15-0, 16-0 now, and it's just not going to happen. So what Brock Bowers and that group did, we are never going to see again for different reasons. The game, has changed and evolved, and again, like I just said 10 seconds ago, the expanded playoff makes it really tough for teams to go undefeated for just 1 year. But Georgia had their special season in 21 with that one loss. They went undefeated the next year in 23, only lost to that same program again. And again, they beat Alabama in their career. So every program they played against, they won for 3 years straight. It sounds crazy, but it's the truth, and it will never happen again. But let's talk about that 21 team real quick and how good they were, because people forget, right? People have forgotten. They kicked off the year against number 3 Clemson and won. Major win to start the season. 2 weeks later, they crush an average South Carolina team. They beat Vanderbilt 62-0, but they beat some quality top 25, top 10 teams. They played number 8 undefeated Arkansas, beat them 37-0. They beat number 18 Auburn on the road by 24 points the next week. They beat number 11 Kentucky, who I think was undefeated at that time. Another college game day game. That was their 3rd of the year. Game day was there for Georgia Clemson, Georgia Arkansas, and Georgia Kentucky, who was number 11 undefeated, and beat them by 23 points. So they're going up against quality teams early in the season and just crushing them. Now they beat Clemson by 7, but after that, again, I'm writing up my stories at the half because the game's already over. I mean, these were drama-free, stress-free games that you knew Georgia was going to win early in the game, and they would go on to crush these games. So people look back and they say, oh, well, the defense carried Stetson Bennett, blah, blah, blah. Stetson Bennett made a lot of plays. He was really good in 21. He was even better in 2022. But yeah, that defense was one of the best in college football history, even though they had one down game. They had one bad game going up against the Heisman Trophy winner and an explosive Alabama offense, and they didn't bring it. They would obviously get revenge. They beat Florida by 28 points, 27 points. They beat Mizzou by 37 at Tennessee. Crushed them. That's routine now. That's common. Georgia crushes Tennessee. And then they beat Georgia Tech by 45. They lost to Alabama. Mopped the floor with Michigan. Just sent them home in an ambulance back up to Ann Arbor. 34-11. Wasn't even that close, right? It just a demolishing of number 2 Michigan. Then they beat number 1 Alabama by double digits for a national championship. That team was so good. I still think that team was better than the 22 team. The 22 team had a better season, no doubt about that, as I try to look up the 22 numbers. But again, you can't tell me that they got better after losing to Kobe Dean, Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, Zamir White, James Cook, on and on and on and on, right? But the 22 team had a better season because they were undefeated. But that group beat some quality opponents too. I mean, it wasn't like they skated through a Big Ten schedule. They opened up the 22 season against number 11 Oregon. That was a good Oregon team, and they beat them by 46. Number 1 Tennessee beat them by double digits, 14 points. The game wasn't even that close. Number 14 LSU. So they didn't play as many ranked teams in 22, but again, they're just mopping the floor with them, except at Missouri. Struggled there, tough, hard-nosed victory. And then in 23, they only lost to one team, Alabama. Probably still should have been in the playoffs, but just looking back on it, it is crazy how good those teams were. They were full of NFL talent. They had the best quarterback in program history. He was a Heisman finalist in 2022, but Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey, just kind of the staples on offense for those 2 championship seasons. And in 23, they were also really, really good. But, Javon Bullard, Kamari Laster, really in 22 and 23, those guys stepped up in a big way, 2 of Kirby Smart's favorite players. But in today's day and age, in today's college football, it's hard just to find a player who will stay in the same place for 3 years. And these guys did it, and again, only lost to one program, and a program that they beat. So it is crazy just looking back and seeing what that group in the 2021 class accomplished. Now, Dylan Fairchild was also in that group, Small Munden, but those 2 played last year, so they lost to more teams than that. Those 4 guys did, who were 3 and out, 21, 22, 23. The best 3 seasons consistently that we have ever seen in Georgia history. And those guys were there for a lot of it. And they made a lot of plays. And it just goes to show not only how good those players were, but the standard that they helped set. And I do think if they were in the playoff in 23, I'm not saying they would have won the national championship. I'm saying they could have beat Michigan. They could have beat Washington. Match them up again with Alabama. Who knows? Maybe they win that game. Maybe they don't, right? They had some real trouble with Jalen Milroe. But that Alabama team played their absolute best against Georgia in the SEC title game, and they won. And then they played like garbage against Michigan, and they lost. That was not the best championship team we've seen, that 23 Michigan team. Really good defense, really good run game, but Georgia could have beaten them. They didn't have the chance. They lost the game they couldn't lose. But at the end of the day, it's just, if you tell other people that stat, that Brock Bowers and those 3 players could be enough. I think Brock Vandagriff was on the roster for those 3 years too, and then transferred to Kentucky for the 24 season, but he didn't play, so he didn't help the team. So it's hard to put him in this conversation. But to tell people, hey, Brock Bowers only lost to one program in 3 years, his entire career, he only lost to one program. A lot of people say, yeah, that can't be right. But it was, because that's how good this team was. So that's something that will never happen again. I can confidently say that. It's hard to just go undefeated in 1 year, but to go 3 years, only lose to one program, it's pretty crazy. And again, just to know that group also beat Alabama. It was mainly Brock Bowers. I think Kamari Laster played some as a freshman in 21. I don't know how much Marius Mims played. I don't know how much Javon Bullard played. But they were on the roster, and they saw the field at some point that season. But Brock Bowers was that dude. Best college tight end of all time. Could be one of the best NFL tight ends of all time. He's on a Hall of Fame career. He's a college football Hall of Famer, no doubt. He's on the Georgia Mount Rushmore, and it looks like he could be a NFL Hall of Famer if he continues at this pace. But when the Bussin' with the Boys asked him that question, they just started laughing. They could not believe that the only program that Brock Bowers lost to through 3 years at Georgia was Alabama. Just one team. It was a team that he also beat. So crazy just looking back on it. But that's something that will never, ever happen again in college football. And the last few guys, the last few guys to say that are Brock Bowers, Kamari Lassiter, Javon Bullard, and Marius Mims. Pretty crazy statistic, but it's true. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. I'll see you over on Dawg Post.